Tennessee has recently had at least 2 former highway patrol officers who have come out as whistleblowers, indicating the type of pressure that the administration and leadership has put on road troopers to make as many DUI arrests as humanly possible, basically. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Highway Patrol has basically dispensed with any notion that they require their troopers to have any sort of quotas. After the most recent story came out, you guys have asked me to give my 2 cents about this issue. Let's talk about it. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. This case came out of WSMV 4, which has an investigative reporter named Jeremy Finley who does incredible work, and he's really been on this sobering problem investigation for at least as long as I've been doing content, and he's uncovered, somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 plus people who've been wrongfully arrested in Tennessee for DUIs. I've done a couple videos on DUIs. I've done a couple videos specifically on DUIs in Tennessee and Tennessee troopers. And I have some thoughts about this, but I think the best thing to do is just to go ahead and watch the WSMV4 news story so that we can sort of get an idea of what they're talking about. And then I'll come back and give my thoughts. And then we'll talk about some practicalities as to why this is happening. Let's check it out.
This is corruption. We're ruining people's lives. We're being forced to ruin people's lives.
Former state troopers are coming forward tonight, blowing the whistle, they say, on a quota system that's leaving innocent people charged with crimes they did not commit.
Chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley is here with the latest on his sobering problem investigation.
Well, guys, what we've uncovered is more than just 2 former troopers coming forward about what they say is a system designed to pressure troopers into making as many DUI arrests as possible. We've also obtained a secretly recorded meeting and internal maps that troopers say explains why so many innocent people are being charged with DUI.
We've told you about Thomas Manis's arrest, and Stephanie Fair's, and Candace Slade's, and all the other people arrested for DUI by state troopers when they were completely sober. But we've never heard from any of the troopers who've arrested sober people for DUI until now.
This is corruption. We're ruining people's lives. We're being forced to ruin people's lives.
Do you know if you've ever arrested a sober driver for DUI?
Yes, sir. I'm sure I have.
Former troopers Ashley Smith and Adam Potts say there's a reason so many innocent people have been arrested for DUI in Tennessee by state troopers. A reason, they say, revealed in these internal maps and recorded audio from a troopers meeting in Chattanooga.
Arrest every DUI that you can get your hands on.
We've always thought this was a great thing because you want to get drunk drivers off the road. Do you feel like that this push to get DUIs is eventually having a negative outcome?
Absolutely. There's pressure to arrest DUIs.
Potts says it's not just pressure.
It's a quota.
I have to ask you, did you ever feel pressure just to pull someone over and arrest them for DUI just to make a quota?
Absolutely.
It's something directly addressed in recorded audio from a meeting with Captain Patrick Turner out of Chattanooga, obtained by WSMV4 Investigates.
I'm passing on the message of what the command staff wants. What does hard work look like? Well, it could look like arresting 100 plus DUIs a year.
In that meeting, it stipulated to troopers on the midnight shift, 100 DUI arrests will be required each year per trooper.
If there's DUI, I want you to load the jail full of them.
Turner also talks about consequences when it comes to how many DUI arrests are made, as well as contacts, meaning drivers pulled over each shift.
You turn in 33 DUIs per year and 1.7 contacts, you're going to get spanked.
But despite what you just heard, this is what the THP emailed us. Quote, the Tennessee Highway Patrol does not have or use quotas for traffic stops, citations, or arrests. And there's more. In emails obtained through the Open Records Act, Captain Bruce McCarley sent out maps this year. Subject line, DUI map. It shows every county in District 8 and every trooper with a number next to it. These former troopers say those are the numbers of DUI arrests made by each trooper.
What is the message to you all? Why send this out to troopers?
You're not doing good enough because somebody else is beating you with the DUIs. You need to do better.
These former troopers say there are incentives for troopers to make DUI arrests.
The advantage of arresting somebody, whether they're really drunk or not, is I continue to get that premium overtime.
So does that translate to troopers feeling like, if I'm working this shift, I've got to find somebody to arrest?
Absolutely.
For full transparency, both Potts and Smith were fired by the THP. Potts pleaded guilty to leaving the scene of a single car accident involving his personal vehicle.
I made a mistake. I had a crash off duty.
And the THP is seeking to decertify Smith, accusing her of helping a family member to get out of a DUI. She's fighting that claim before the state.
The THP may simply say that you're just a disgruntled employee, and that's why you're coming forward.
I would have said something before if it wouldn't have been career suicide for me.
As for what the THP says about their claims and everything else we've obtained, we don't know.
Colonel, this is Jeremy Finley with Channel 4.
After we tried to speak with the head of the THP in August and he drove away in a car, we once again sent our findings to them, asking for an interview. Instead, they sent a statement reading in part, troopers are highly trained and expected to use their judgment and make necessary traffic stops based on observed violations and public safety needs.
I think they really don't care about the citizens. I think they care about the way it looks, the perception.
Okay, so you may be surprised by that. I suspect you're not. I'm not the least bit surprised by that. And I really enjoy the work that Jeremy Finley does. In fact, I have reached out to him via email to invite him to come on to the show because I'd like to pick his brain and allow him to have a platform to just talk about all the things that don't make it into the final cut on his investigative reports, because there's so much more to this that he just doesn't have time to talk about because corporate media is corporate media. And I'm certainly not going to take any shots at WSMV4 or any other channel. I mean, they're doing whatever they're doing, right? They're getting these stories out, and 1.8 million people have watched this story on that channel. I'm thankful that he's doing the work, but the full factual details aren't in as far as Adam Potts. But let me tell you, I read this story when it first came out, and I intended to do a video about it, and for whatever reason, it fell through the cracks, and I can't remember why I didn't. But Adam Potts had a single vehicle crash, and I believe, and I might be wrong, but I can't think of any reason why somebody would do what he did if it wasn't the case. I believe that he was DUI himself. Knowing what the state police does and having arrested innocent people, admittedly, on camera for his entire THP career, he went out and he had a crash. Well, I believe that what he did is evidence of consciousness of guilt. And I believe because what he didn't just lie about having a crash. It's not like he left the car and then when somebody was like, hey, Adam, what happened to your car? Man, I don't know. It got stolen. I mean, that would have been bad enough. What he actually did was he blamed the crash on his son. Now, just keep in mind what the dynamic is between father and son, or what it should be. You're supposed to be teaching your son about male leadership. You're supposed to be teaching your son about how he can improve his life by taking responsibility for his actions. Then he doesn't have to worry about pointing fingers at anybody else. Personal responsibility is the on-ramp to a successful life. That's what I believe. That's what I've taught my son. And I believe that's what fathers are supposed to teach their children, son or daughter. But this is somebody who looks up to you, who relies on your leadership as a father, and you have taken him and blamed him for crashing your car. And ultimately it stunk. So they started digging around and they found out that it wasn't his son that was driving the car, and he admitted to blaming his son. So I literally take everything he says with, why didn't you come forward before? If you knew it was wrong, why didn't you come forward before? And I saw there's a guy that's on Facebook that's good friends with him that has a ministry. And this guy came out and said that he's a Christian and that he asked God for forgiveness and asked his family for forgiveness. And he's trying to take accountability. But in the moment, what you see is this privilege that we always see with law enforcement, because he was completely fine blaming his son for this crash until it caused him to experience some consequences and the truth came out. It wasn't like this rested on his conscience for a period of time and he was like, you know what, guys, I got to come clean. No, it took him having to sit down in internal affairs and be interviewed and have his version of events challenged by investigators before he did the right thing. So I literally have no sympathy for that guy. I completely dispense with whatever he has to say. I'm sorry, get your forgiveness from the Lord, because I'm not interested. Ashley Smith, I don't purport to know anything about her case. If it's true that all she was trying to do was advise her family member how to get out of a DUI or how to mount a potential defense against a DUI, then obviously that's wrong that they are, and by they, I mean the THP, they really shouldn't take an interest on behalf of the state that every single DUI is worthy of fighting for. Okay, that's a serious problem, especially when you have reports out there that over 600 Tennesseans have been arrested falsely for DUI in the last 6 or 7 years, and you have a new law that is mandating reporting to the TBI for DUI cases that come back with nothing in the bloodstream. Okay, so things are moving, and it's really stupid on behalf of the THP to be attacking a trooper for trying to help her friend or family member or whatever figure out how to mount a defense against a DUI that she obviously sees no merit in. But here's my problem with her. We just heard what she had to say.
The THP may simply say that you're just a disgruntled employee, and that's why you're coming forward.
I would have said something before if it wouldn't have been career suicide for me.
Exactly. Which means that you are just a disgruntled employee who was fine. You were fine with this gig. You were fine with this corruption. You were fine with being forced in exchange for a fat paycheck to ruin people's lives by falsely arresting them. And you were fine with all of that as long as they wanted you on the team. And now you've found out that you are no longer on this side of that blue line that delineates between justice and just us. And now you have a problem, and now you want to talk about it. And that's my issue. Look, I hope she has a productive life, but she's fighting to keep her law enforcement certification. And that tells me that she still wants to be involved in law enforcement, which means that there's still going to be some push. She's still going to have a situation where there's going to come an opportunity for her to get overtime and pad that pension on the backs of innocent people who might otherwise not have been arrested if it wasn't for that incentive. So there's an enormous incentive for this. They just passed a law, I think in 2024, that gives law enforcement officers in Tennessee something that they call hazard pay and bridge pay for officers that are on the road. Okay. So it applies to every law enforcement officer that's in a frontline duty station, right? So any officer on the road doing traffic stops would qualify for, okay? The standard Tennessee, what they saw the TCRS, which is Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, allows for a trooper, they get to about $100,000 after 10 years of service. Okay, they started in the mid-60s. They get to $100,000 after about 10 years of service. After 25 years or so, a trooper can retire. If a trooper making $100,000 in 25 years retires, they take the last 5 years, the 60 consecutive months right before you retire, and they take your average salary and they give a certain percentage in pension, okay? For a regular trooper that doesn't really work any overtime and just does regular duty, that pension looks to be, based on today's math, which would be higher because $100,000 ain't going to mean in 25 years what it means now, but it's going to be like $37,500. You take that same trooper, and if you add this new law that gives them the bridge pay and the hazard pay, that $37,000 is going to be about $65,000. You take that same trooper with 8 hours of overtime per pay period, and that $65,000 pension becomes $75,000 a year. And then if you take that same trooper and you add another 8 hours worth of overtime onto that 2-week pay period, now you have a shift extra per week. So you have 8 hours and 8 hours, 16. Now that same trooper is getting $85,000 a year on their pension. So you've increased the pension by $20,000 a year. That's about $1,600 extra a month by working these DUI shifts where there's high pressure to arrest people, where you get to pad your pension for the end of your career. And the problem is, what Potts was talking about is if I arrest somebody and I'm at the end of that 8-hour shift, let's say the highway safety office said, okay, we're only doing 8-hour shifts. Well, if I wait till the very last minute and I pull somebody over and towards the last 30 minutes of my shift, I end up hooking and booking a guy for DUI, drunk or not, guess what? that's going to take me some time. That's going to take my sweet old time processing this guy. By the time it's all said and done, I've turned that 8-hour shift into a 12-hour shift. And you can see how this starts to pile up and pad these pensions. And the hit to the taxpayer is millions and millions of dollars over the course of 1,000 troopers over the course of their careers. In addition to that, you've got all these award incentives and you've got pressure from the administration. They can say all they want to that they're not doing it, but it's obvious they're doing it. They're on freaking audio recording telling people exactly what these troopers are saying. So I'm not saying that I'm not happy that they came forward. And I'm not saying that it isn't true. I'm saying that I don't believe that they had any issue with it. And so I hesitate to sort of classify them as a good cop in the same way that I would Spencer Lowe from the video that was double good cop of the week last week, where he reported his supervisors, right, to the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office for alternate report. Like, that is a good cop of the week, and he had no incentive to do it. These folks have some sort of retribution to seek as a result of them being fired from their job, and now they have something to say about the department. And again, I don't really have a problem with that either. It's just that it's really not that much of a surprise. And I don't look at these people and think, oh, what a virtuous person who decided to free themselves of this corruption and come forward. And I get why she's trying to hold on to her certification. It takes a very long time with law enforcement in your rear view before you can declutter your mind and begin to think like a person who is not on that side of the thin blue line, because it really becomes part of your identity, especially if you've been trained or they failed to train you to understand that your entire ego and your self image is not the authority upon which everything you do rests, right? So, but the problem is that is how they train you, or they fail to train you any other way. So that's what you default to. And so it's very, very difficult to untangle your actual identity from the badge. And I can tell you that from personal experience, and I'm not proud of it. It just is reality. So in some ways I feel for her, because I realize she's probably holding on to that badge and that identity because it's all she knows. But it's going to be a while before she actually starts to declutter her mind and see things for what they actually are. It took me a while. Hell, I'm still evolving in my viewpoint. You can look at my videos from 18 months ago, and they're probably pretty different. I don't watch myself, so I don't know, but they're probably pretty different than what I had to say, last week. In closing, this is multifaceted, multiple piles of bullshit that are stacked upon each other that leads to this problem. Okay, you got Mothers Against Drug Driving and the power of their lobby. You've got their DUI awards and incentives. You got the administration pushing for these because they want the recognition and they want the highway safety money because it gives their guys a reason to work extra overtime. So there's more presence and people feel like, there's more police officers on the road. Like, everything about their mission is aided by this extra money that the federal government dumps into their pockets to pay their troopers more money. They don't have to go to the legislature and ask for more money to pay their troopers more for salaries and all that stuff, because these guys are happy with the overtime, right? They got a decent salary. They start at the 60s. They go to the 100. Now you just work a little overtime, get your pension, move on with your life, right? All of these things stack up. And then on top of it, the prosecutors that are charged with actually prosecuting these cases, they are grant funded too. So their conviction rate literally translates to whether or not their grant gets renewed. So every single bit of this is home cooked, and it's not surprising. It's a foreseeable consequence to having this sort of incentive structure with policing. And it's not going to change until somebody at the lawmaking level in the legislature says, we have to stop this. There was actually a case in the appellate court in Tennessee called DeCosimo that was a very interesting case while I was in law school. And DeCosimo actually challenged, whenever you get convicted of a DUI, there's some sort of a fee. I can't remember if it's $250 or $750 that gets dumped into the TBI general fund or something. And so the lawyer in DeCosimo was able to make the case that there was an incentive for people to be convicted of DUI in the state of Tennessee, because that money, instead of going into some separate fund, every time somebody was convicted, the state got a certain amount of money. And so that lawyer successfully argued in the Court of Appeals that that was unconstitutional. It was an incentive for a person to be guilty instead of innocent until proven guilty, and there was an incentive to convict them. Well, the Supreme Court of Tennessee said, no, we don't see it the same way. So they overturned DeCosimo at the Supreme Court level. And then magically, the state of Tennessee started segregating that money that they got from the convictions into another pot that they could spend from, to where there was no conflict of interest. But there was a conflict. It was a correct ruling from the appellate court. It just got overturned because of the BS back your blue bullshit that exists in the state of Tennessee. But the point is, there are far too many layers of incentives to ignore the foreseeable consequences of people being wrongfully arrested for DUI. So this is not going to be a problem that corrects itself. This is going to be something that has to be tackled from the legislative level. And as long as you put these guys out there and you give them all the reason in the world, in fact, you punish them for not arresting people, this is what you're going to get. And the THP can say all they want, they don't have quotas. I know troopers personally who are friends of mine. These guys are the guys that call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and be like, hey man, did I get this right? Can you help me make sure that I'm doing this the right constitutional way? I have these guys call me, okay? You can call a quota an expectation if you want to, but when you say the expectation is this, and if you don't do this, there are going to be consequences for it, that's a quota. There's no two ways about it. It is a quota. I personally know these guys. They tell me they have to stop 2 contacts per hour or they will be in trouble with their supervisor. Every hour they work, they have to stop 2 people. Now, there's no quota for arrests. There's no quota for tickets, but they have a quota for contacts. And if you don't stop these people, then you'll hear from the captain there what's going to happen. Well, you'll be considered somebody who doesn't work very hard. So hard work to the Tennessee Highway Patrol is not just being out there working the accidents, preventing accidents, showing officer presence. That's not what hard work looks like. It's not working a 12-hour shift. It's not working, 12 days in a row. It's nothing to do with actual hard work. You can't sit here and say that you're not pushing for quota-laden statistics if you're defining hard work based on the outcome of those contacts. So you can say you want the contacts, and that don't look like hard work with you making your contacts, but the DUI arrests are the consequences of those contacts, and that's what looks like hard work to you. You can say what you want, but there's a reason that the colonel of the state police refused to speak with Jeremy Finley and drove off like a dickhead while he was trying to sit here and talk to him. So anyway, those are my thoughts on this case. I have invited Jeremy to come on and talk. I hope he's willing to do it. I think he does great work. I've been a big fan of his for a while. I've also talked to Jody Barr in South Carolina and asked him to come on. He's agreed, but we haven't been able to get together on schedule. But hopefully I'll be able to bring you an interview with one or both of those guys in the very near future. I would like to invite you to check us out on all the socials. You can use your phone to scan the QR code on your screen. That'll take you to the Linktree site where you can check out the YouTube channel, Facebook, TikTok, Substack. You can sign up on a paid tier of Substack if you want to, but that's only for people who want to support the channel monetarily. I don't put anything on these platforms that people have to pay for. If you don't want to follow us to other platforms, but you'd like to support monetarily, I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.